7, 6, ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1, ignition.
The clock is running!
We have liftoff. Houston, we have cleared the tower in 1313.
Okay, guys, we got it.
Apollo 13 is directed by Ron Howard. The film is written by Jim Lovell, Jeffrey Kluger, William Broyles Jr., and Al Reinert. This is based on a true story and is also based on the book The Lost Moon by astronaut and author Jim Lovell. This is a drama, adventure, and historical film. Apollo 13 has an all-star cast which includes Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, Gary Sinise, Ed Harris, Kathleen Quinlan, Mark McClure, Joe Spano, and Xander Berkeley. This film is rated PG for language and emotional intensity. The film's runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Apollo 13 was released in theaters in the United States on June 30th, 1995, and was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. However, it did not win all 9, but it did win for Best Film Editing and Best Sound. In total, the film grossed over $355 million worldwide during its theatrical releases. The film was positively received by its critics. So in July 1969, astronaut Jim Lovell, played by Tom Hanks, hosts a house party where guests watch Neil Armstrong's televised first human footsteps on the moon. Afterwards, Lovell, who had orbited the moon on Apollo 8, tells his wife Marilyn, played by Kathleen Quinlan, that he intends to return to the moon and walk on its surface. Fast forward 3 months later, Jim Lovell's boss, Deke Slayton, informs him that because of problems with Alan Shepard's crew, his crew will now fly the Apollo 13 mission instead of Apollo 14. Lovell, Ken Mattingly, played by Gary Sinise, and Fred Hayes, played by Bill Paxton, train for their new mission. A few days before the launch, Mattingly is exposed to German measles, and the flight surgeon demands that he be grounded and that his replacement and backup, Jack Swigert, played by Kevin Bacon, assume the command module pilot position. Lovell resists on breaking up his team, but relents when Slayton threatens to bump his crew to a later mission. As the launch date approaches, Marilyn has a nightmare about her husband getting killed in space, but goes off to the Kennedy Space Center the night before the launch to see him off. So I'm going to stop right there and tell you about a scene between this and the launch scene where Kathleen Quinlan, who plays Marilyn Lovell, was in. She shows her in a hotel room taking a shower, and she has her wedding ring on. While she's taking a shower, her wedding ring slips off her finger and goes into the drain. And come to find out that that actually happened in real life. Her ring slipped off and went down the drain. However, it didn't go all the way down the drain. She was able to tell hotel management, and they were able to retrieve her ring for her. So that actually happened. So that was interesting to find out. So anyway, back to the synopsis. On April 11th, 1970, the flight director Gene Kranz, played by Ed Harris, gives the go-ahead from Houston's Mission Control Center for the Apollo 13 launch. As the Saturn V rocket climbs through the atmosphere, a second stage engine cuts off prematurely, but the craft does reach its Earth parking orbit. After the third stage fires to send Apollo 13 to the moon, Jack Swigert performs the maneuver to connect the command service module Odyssey to the lunar module Aquarius and pull it away from the spent rocket. So fast forward 3 days into the mission. On April 13th, 1970, the crew make a televised transmission which the networks decline to broadcast. After Jack Swigert turns on the liquid oxygen tank stirring fans as requested by Mission Control, one of the tanks explodes, emptying its contents into space and sending the craft tumbling into space. The other tank is soon found to be leaking as well. They attempt to stop the leak by shutting off fuel cells number 1 and number 3, but it does not work. So with those fuel cells now closed, the moon landing must be aborted. So Lovell and Hayes must hurriedly power up the Aquarius to use as a lifeboat for the return trip home. As Swigert shuts down the Odyssey before the battery power runs out, they must make sure that everything has been transferred over to the lunar module so they have everything they need over there. In Houston, Gene Kranz rallies his team to come up with a plan to bring the astronauts home safely, declaring failure is not an option. Controller John Aaron, played by Lauren Dean, recruits Ken Mattingly, who never got the measles and doesn't get the measles, to help him invent a procedure to restart the Odyssey for the splashdown landing on Earth. As Jack Swigert and Fred Hayes watch the moon pass beneath them, Lovell limits his lost chance of walking on its surface and then turns their attention to the business of getting home. With the Aquarius running on minimal electrical power, the crew suffers freezing conditions and Fred Hayes contracts a urinary tract infection, which results in a lot of coughing and high fever. Swigert suspects Mission Control is withholding their inability to get them home. Hayes angrily blames Swigert's inexperience for the accident, and Lovell quickly squelches the argument to try and get them focused back on the task at hand, which is getting home.
I've been going over the numbers again. Have they called up with a re-entry plan yet? Because we're coming in too shallow.
We're working on something, Jack. Just hold on.
I can't remember the ratio to temperature. We got no references on board.
Well, let's see if Houston can pull up the mil specs on it.
Listen. They gave us too much Delta V. They had us burned too long. At this rate, we're going to skip right out of the atmosphere, and we're never going to get back.
What are you talking about? How'd you figure that?
I can add.
Jack, they've got half the PhDs on the planet
Houston
working
says
on
we're
this
right
thing.
on the money.
And what if they had made a mistake, all right, and there was no way to reverse it? Do you think they would tell us? There's no reason for them to tell us.
What do you mean they're not going to tell us? That's bullshit.
All right, there's 1,000 things that have to happen in order. We are on number 8. You're talking about number 692.
And in the meantime, I'm trying to tell you we're coming in too fast. I think they know it, and I think that's why we don't have a goddamn re-entry plan, all right?
Duly noted. Thank you, Jack.
Ow! God damn it!
Hey!
Piece of shit!
This piece of shit's going to get you home.
All right.
That's because that's the only thing we got left, Jack.
Now, what are you saying, Fred?
Oh, I think you know what I'm saying.
Now, wait a minute. All I did was stir those tanks.
What was that gauge reading before you hit the switch?
Hey, don't tell me how to fly the damn CM, all right?
You don't
They brought
even
me in
know,
here
do ya?
to do a job. They asked me to stir the damn tanks, and I stirred the tanks.
Jack, stop kicking yourself in the ass.
This is not my fault.
No one is saying it is. If I'm in the left-hand seat when the call comes up, I stir the tanks.
Yeah, well, tell him that.
I just asked you what the gauge was reading.
All right, we're not
And
gonna...
you don't know.
All right, look, we're not doing this, gentlemen. We are not going to do this. We're not going to go bouncing off the walls for 10 minutes. Because we're just going to end up right back here with the same problems. Trying to figure out how to stay alive.
Aquarius, this is Houston.
Are we on Vox?
No, we're not on Vox.
Yeah, Houston, this is Aquarius. Go ahead.
Now, that scene, I remember reading and watching the making of Apollo 13. And in the film, it was said that the arguing scene never happened and that it was put in there by the director and producers in Hollywood to amp up the tension. So that actual scene was never happened in real life. So back to the film, the astronauts and the mission controllers realized that the carbon dioxide approaches dangerous levels, and ground control must invent a way to make the command module square filters work in the lunar module's round receptacles. With guidance systems on the Aquarius all shut down, the crew must make a difficult but vital course correction by manually igniting the lunar module engines and getting themselves back on course. There was also another scene that was put into the film between Gene Kranz and a couple of mission controllers who were yelled and snapped at by Kranz because there were no power-up procedures yet for the command module re-entry. And it was stated in this scene that that scene was also put in the film to show growing tension, but in truth never really happened.
Whatever you guys got on these power procedures.
Gene, they're already...
No, I don't want the whole damn Bible. Just give me a couple chapters. We gotta get something up to these guys.
They're working on it now.
I'll call over to the simulator and get an estimate.
God damn it! I don't want another estimate. I want the procedures. Now!
So Ken Mattingly and John Aaron struggle to find a way to turn on the command module systems without drawing too much power, and finally transmit the procedure to Jack Swigert, who restarts the Odyssey by transferring extra power from the Aquarius's batteries. When the crew jettison the service module, they are surprised to see the extent of the damage as they release the Aquarius and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. No one is sure if they're going to survive re-entry because the Odyssey's heat shield, they don't know if it's intact or if it got damaged during the explosion. The tense period of radio silence due to ionization blackout is longer than normal, but the astronauts report all is well and splash down in the Pacific Ocean. As the helicopters bring the 3 men aboard the recovery ship, the USS Iwo Jima, for a hero's welcome, Lovell's voiceover describes the subsequent investigation into the explosion and the careers of Hayes, Swigert, Mattingly, Kranz, and himself. He wonders if and when mankind will return to the moon. Well, if you've been watching the news recently, it's been stated by President Trump and Vice President Pence that we will be going back to the moon very soon. Some interesting facts I learned about the making of the film. Ron Howard went to great lengths to create a technically accurate movie by employing NASA's technical assistance in astronaut and flight controller training for his cast and obtaining permission to film scenes aboard a reduced gravity aircraft for a realistic depiction of weightlessness experienced by astronauts in space. The real Jim Lovell appears in the film as the captain of the recovery ship, the USS Iwo Jima. Ron Howard had intended to make him an admiral, but Lovell himself, having retired as a captain, chose to appear in his actual rank. Horror film director Roger Corman, a mentor of Ron Howard's, appears as a congressman being given a VIP tour by Lovell of the Vehicle Assembly Building, as it had become something of a tradition for Corman to make a cameo appearance in his protege's films. The real Marilyn Lovell appeared among spectators during the launch sequence. CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite appears in archived news footage and can be heard in newly recorded announcements, some of which he edited himself to sound more authentic. In addition to Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, several other members of Ron Howard's family appear in the movie. Rance Howard, his father, appears as the Lovell family minister. Jean Spiegel Howard, his mother, appears as Lovell's mother Blanche, and Cheryl Howard, his wife, and Bryce Dallas Howard, his daughter, appear as uncredited background performers in the scene where the astronauts wave goodbye to their families. Brad Pitt was offered the role in the film, but turned it down to star in the movie Seven. Jeffrey Kluger appears as a television reporter. Some other interesting facts about the film. In Los Angeles, Ed Harris and all the actors portraying flight controllers enrolled in a flight controller school led by Jerry Griffin, an Apollo 13 flight director, and flight controller Jerry Bostick. These actors studied audio tapes from missions and reviewed hundreds of pages of NASA transcripts and attended a crash course in physics. Astronaut Dave Scott was impressed with their efforts, stating that each actor was determined to make every scene technically correct word for word. So, wow, they really went all out for this movie, and it really shows in the portrayals of all the characters. So let's talk about the music. The musical score for this film was composed and conducted by the late, great James Horner, who did music for films such as Titanic, The Amazing Spider-Man, Aliens, Avatar, The Perfect Storm, and the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. The music is really, really good and and just wonderful all around. It really sets the tone along with the actors and situations about what emotion you should be feeling, such as excitement, danger, or happiness. I love this score so much that I bought it on CD many years ago, and I still have it, and I enjoy listening to it every now and then. So this movie is not perfect, but it comes pretty close. It has a couple of pacing issues, which, I mean, you can overlook, basically, but I mean, it's just me being nitpicky like I am. There were a lot of small, very, very minor mistakes or goofs in the film. In all honesty, they are really unnoticeable unless you're just really looking for them. I do have several regrets about this film. My only regrets are that I wish I would have gotten to see it in theaters or on an IMAX screen, and I wish we still had actor Bill Paxton. I wish he was still alive to bring us more awesome roles. Before he died, he was actually trying to get a sequel to Twister greenlit. Sadly, we will never get one, at least not one with Bill Paxton in it. So let's talk about my grade for this film. My final grade for this film, I've decided I'm going to give this film an A+. Good job, Apollo 13. Well done. So, yeah, A+. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, go down to the bottom, click the subscribe button. Go ahead and like this video and share this video. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll know when I post new videos. Other than that, that's all for now. God bless, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.